craziest reason you have heard for a breakup divorce. Story 1. Wife was sensitive to fluorescent light bulbs, but the husband kept insisting on having them to save the environment. He would change out the incandescent bulbs when she was asleep multiple times. She got sick of it and filed for divorce. Story 2. Divorce. He was with her in the delivery room while she was giving birth to their first baby. After that, he was grossed out by her anytime he sees her. She said he didn't even sleep with me in the same bed anymore, so she filed for divorce. Story 3. A couple of years ago, I was at a restaurant, and the couple next to us were arguing. The lady was upset with the man because he wouldn't buy her the newest BMW that had come out that year. The man started listing all the luxurious things he had recently bought her, including the ring on her finger, and proceeded to call her an ungrateful brat. She got up, slapped him, and stormed out crying. I always wonder if they made it to the altar. Story 4. Hurricane Katrina. Wife was a team, a medical first responder for a hospital. Husband was not. Once it became obvious how serious the storm was going to be, both made the decision for the husband to evacuate with their cat and stay just north of the city with family. Wife was stuck for well over a week in the city dealing with on Earth. She eventually made it safely out of the city. Her husband claimed that the cat ran away from their family member's home. I can't remember the reason he gave. It wasn't until they were gutting their home when the wife finally found out the truth. Husband forgot their cat and left it home. The same home that received several feet of floodwater and sludge. They found what was left of the cat's body in the home. She filed for divorce so fast. 100 do not blame her. It's still a crazy reason. TLDR. First responder wife divorces husband after he left the cat to drown at home during Hurricane Katrina. Story 5. 5-year marriage. Never consummated. Wife just refused to do anything or to seek any help to resolve the issue. Only justification given was that she didn't see what the big deal was though, apparently. As when told that the marriage would be terminated, she told everyone she didn't know why the husband would want a divorce. Source: I was the husband. Sometimes in hindsight, it doesn't even feel real. Sounds like a bad romance novel plot, but it was all too real. Story 6. I recall hearing a Reddit story. Think it was a Kevin story, where a stepdad wanted to divorce his wife if she didn't make her kid from a previous marriage magically biologically his. And no, he didn't mean let him adopt him. The dad really thought you could change a kid's genetics to be his own. Story 7. Read a post on here where a man left his wife because she breastfed their newborn son, and he couldn't stand the idea that another man had touched her breasts. Dude was absolutely abusive and awful in so many ways. I'm glad she got out. Story 8. About 15 years ago, a co-worker's wife came into a hardware store I worked at and got into an argument with her when he shouted that he doesn't think his daughter is his because her S aren't big like his sister and mother's when they were closer to his wife's eyes. Story 9. I'm not sure if this is crazy. A local lawyer specializes in silver divorces, i.e. older people. When interviewed, he was asked about the oldest person he had arranged a divorce for. He said it was a 93-year-old man. When he asked the man why he wanted a divorce so late in life, he said, "Because I want to die in peace." Story 10. I saw a story on Reddit about a woman whose husband left her cause she got breast reduction done on her huge breasts that were debilitating her. The dude packed his stuff while she was in surgery without letting her know he was leaving. Story 11. Disagreement about whether they were called chickpeas or garbanzo beans. Neither party could believe that both were names for the same thing, so they broke up. Story 12. Up against the barriers at a Bob Dylan concert. Mark Knopfler was opening. Halfway through Knopfler's set, the couple next to me started arguing. The dude was screaming at her, calling her up because she was making eyes at the bass player. Finally, he stormed off, excruciatingly slowly because the crowd was so thick. Asked her if she was all right, and she said yeah, and she seemed to have a blast the rest of the gig. Story 13. 2 of my really good friends who everyone saw as the perfect couple split up. 2 days later, my then partner told me he was leaving because it made him realize that if they could split up, anyone could, so we might as well get it over and done with now. Story 14. A girlfriend was looking through my CD case and found some KMFDM CDs. She had a complete breakdown. I was completely baffled. She thought KMFDM stood for Kill Depeche Mode. Apparently, Depeche Mode got her through some hard times, and she loved their music. I told her that probably wasn't true, and if it stood for anything, it was probably something in German since they were a German band, but the damage was done. IRC. There was a Reddit story about a woman divorcing her husband because he would close the lids of their jars too tightly, and she could never get them open. Story 15. Just read on a post here on Reddit, a poor woman asking for help as her man watched some alpha male, and now he decided he won't wipe his anymore, and he is adamant on that to the point she is thinking on divorce. Story 16. My ex broke up with me because I was her first person she had with. Her mother told her that she couldn't settle for a first and needed to go out and have with more people. The crazy thing is that her family loved me, and we were happy. I did end up dodging a bullet. She drinks like a fish now and gets a new job every 3 months. Story 17. A co-worker Syl said she caught her husband in bed with another man soon after they moved to a new city. She didn't even pack a bag, just flew back and lived with his sister and bought all new stuff. Didn't want anything sent to her. Story 18. 2 sets of next door neighbors. Rumors swirled about a possible affair between the wife of one couple and the husband of the other. The wife of the alleged cheating husband killed herself. Soon afterward, the husband of the alleged cheating wife divorced her. And as I helped him pack his U-Haul, he told me he found abortion pills in his alleged cheating wife's purse. Story 19. A guy I knew was a recovering alcoholic, and on his last chance with his wife, he had been clean for several years. But one night, he didn't come home. He was found in someone's front yard passed out with beer bottles around him. He had no recollection of anything that had happened the night before. His wife kicked him to the curb, and he was shunned by family and friends. He ended up going to the hospital because his hangover never went away, and he was feeling terrible. As it turns out, he wasn't out drinking that night. He had gone for a walk and was jumped and robbed by a bunch of drunk and left unconscious in someone's yard. He had a TBI, and a lot of people around him feeling pretty bad. Story 20. My ex-fiancée broke it off because I stopped wearing graphic t-shirts but still wore t-shirts, just with nothing on them for my job, and that I sold my 2007 Mustang GT to pay off debt. I replaced it with a free Toyota Matrix my folks were getting rid of. These things led to me not being sexy or cool anymore. Funnily enough, I still own a 1973 Mustang Mach 1, which I feel is far cooler than the GT. But whatever, I married someone who was a vastly much better fit for me. And now, that ex is just a bunch of funny stories I tell folks. Story 21. I broke up with a boyfriend after I met his mom and realized she had genetic defect. Yes, I argued with myself about it, but was very young. He was older and constantly talking about getting me pregnant and getting married. I was 14 and he was 17. I didn't break up immediately. I really liked him, but the last straw was his parents' mom and stepdad following us back from the lake. His stepdad had told him not to drive crazy, and he just bought his own car. Halfway home, his stepdad starts laying on the horn, driving irrationally crazy, coming next to him, flipping him off, getting back behind, getting beside again, rolled the passenger window down, and just screaming at him, flashing their lights, got back in front and slamming the brakes, all while doing 70 miles per hour on the highway. Finally, he starts motioning for him to pull over. By now, I was already scared to death, and we both had no idea what was going on. So he pulls over on the side of the freaking highway, gets out cuz his stepdad is motioning for him to come back and stepdad is coming towards him. We had talked before pulling over. Is there a flat tire or who knows? Without a word, his stepdad just lays him out. No warning, punches him as hard as he can, and the dude was at least triple his weight and taller. He's screaming at him, kicks him, hits him, tells him to get the up. Hits him again. My ex didn't even attempt to fight back or cover. So I realized this wasn't rare or new, and his mom got out also screaming at him. Why, oh, because he was driving the speed limit. After being told to not drive crazy, he was pissed because he wasn't driving fast enough. He got back in blood everywhere. I told him to call the cops. He said he can't. I went home, and I called CPS because there were other things that's really bothered me with his younger siblings. They weren't allowed to have doors or to use the restroom or shower privately, and some other, but that was it. I made a call to report it. His mother came to my house, screaming at me a week later. I'm assuming she thought I called, or had my mom call. So I broke up with him. I was scared of becoming pregnant due to her weird, tiny little thumbs anyway, size of a baby's. Story 22. One of my best friends from high school got a divorce when he found out his wife was posting on Reddit about their relationship problems, said she should have asked for permission first. Story 23. I got dumped for not liking Disney enough. Don't get me wrong, I love Disney movies and Marvel, etc., but an example of not enough, apparently, is the time I fell asleep at 3 a.m. while she was showing me a silent documentary about the history of Disneyland rides. Let me be perfectly clear, this was after saying I was tired at 230 and asking if we could instead watch in the morning. It was interesting stuff, but slides of white text on a black background haircut with B-roll of theme park rides is not engaging enough for a tired 26-year-old man at 3 a.m. Initially, I chalked it up to other reasons, and that the Disney aspect was BS. But the next day, her best friend messaged me that my ex was asking for opinions about men on Mouse Mingle 2 days before we broke up. Even worse, I caved and stalked my ex's profile on the above site and found out she opened her account 3 months prior to our breakup. Edit reworked the second to last paragraph for legibility. Story 24. A story I heard about on social media. I don't know if it's something normal in that culture, but it definitely sounds crazy to me. So a woman from my country got married to an Egyptian guy, and she also had to convert to Islam. She moved to Egypt, and I think she ate something there and felt unwell. She texted her doctor from here, to consult regarding local medication. Her doctor was male, so when her husband found out about it, he divorced her. Story 25. I read a story here on Reddit before where a wife divorced her husband because her stepdaughter was abusive towards her and her son. It was a sad situation because the husband really loved the wife and his stepson, and they were currently expecting their own child, a child they had planned to have. The final straw was when the stepdaughter threw a cup of hot beverage on the wife. I forgot if it was hot chocolate or what. The wife decided to terminate the pregnancy because she was going to divorce her husband. I was trying to look for those posts, but maybe it got deleted. Story 26. An acquaintance back in my army days divorced her husband because he could not stop buying collectible G.I. action figures. Full-on addiction that he was hiding from her, bankrupted them, and had amassed a collection of $150K that he tried to hide from her. Story 27. This is not a joke, this really happened to me. My now ex-husband said to me when he told me he wanted a divorce when I walked into the kitchen and I saw you were drinking a caramel latte. I knew you were never going to change. He wanted me to lose weight. I wasn't doing it fast enough. Story 28. One husband went to the BR0, fell the night of the wedding. He lied and said he was going to buy more beer too. A wedding I went to, the bride changed her mind and didn't want to get out of the car at the church. The priest convinced her to. She spent the day crying not happy tears shortly after they got their marriage annulled. We knew something was wrong on the day due to the bride's tears and the MILs and a heated discussion on the dance floor. The poor bride looked miserable. Story 29. Dude married with 4 kids. First child was to another woman and was paying child support. After kid 4, he got a vasectomy. Wife started nagging to sort out child support payments with his ex as it increased all of a sudden as his income went down. Nope, wasn't for kid 1, but for kid 5. After the vasectomy, he still managed to get someone else pregnant, and she was claiming child support. Story 30. I knew a couple who were swingers and regularly went to swinging parties. He told me they never kissed anyone else, but did everything else. She then kissed someone at a party, and he left her because he said he couldn't trust her anymore. Story 31. Because one wanted kid and other didn't and were aware of this issue long before marriage. The guy must have been overridden with horny thoughts and lost his logical mind. Whatever happened baffles me. Story 32. One I saw on Reddit a few years ago. A couple having an argument in the bathroom one morning. The wife pulled the tampon out ad through it at her husband hitting him in the face. Papers served shortly after. Story 33. A friend of my father-in-law's was speeding with his wife and his wife's parents in the car. He crashed, and both her parents died horribly. The marriage didn't last long after that, and my in-laws refused to get in the car with me driving. Story 34. Had a buddy who served in the military. He was active duty for 2 years and spent time overseas in Germany doing training. He got home from deployment only to find out that his wife had been cheating on him for 6 months. She had been a guy who lived in their neighborhood. Weirdly enough, he was willing to try and look past the fact that she had an affair while he was gone. She was the one who hit him with the papers. Don't worry, there's a silver lining. The judge took one look at the case, and because she had been unfaithful, she didn't receive one single thing of his. Story 35. Had a friend who bragged on about how sweet her new was, and casually added, too bad, I have to break up with him. I can't be seen with a haircut like that. Story 36. Divorce because the wife asked the mother-in-law to keep out of a lover's quarrel she had absolutely no business interfering in. She got offended, cried, told her son, and everything went downhill from there. Story 37. Best friend, she's crazy. You have no idea what I go through. She's a completely different person when it's just the two of us. We all knew who the crazy person was. Story 38. We have to break up because you're swearing too much. I am a female. She was a female. She never said she didn't like it or asked me to swear less. She just found a reason, lol. Story 39. I did work experience at a law firm and was allowed to attend court to listen to some hearings. He was divorcing her because, when he criticized her food, she threw her plate at him. She was 97 and he was 98. Story 40. My ex in high school would get mad at me randomly because I had moved an extra 20 minutes away from him and he felt he couldn't see me anymore. BC, it was so far away. Guys, he cheated on me with a girl in Florida and would talk to her about our issues, but not with me. So glad I found my fiancé now. Story 41. A friend of mine was married and had what he assumed was a great marriage. He had been married a year, but his wife had never been to his parents' house, so they went for Christmas to stay the week. While there, his mom broke out the picture albums, and his wife saw a picture of him when he was in high school, super active in playing sports and working out. She asked why he didn't look like that anymore, and he basically said that it had been a decade. He lost the muscle mass, and his life focus has changed. This turned into her asking if her could get back in shape, and he didn't disagree with her as he missed working out. After joining a gym, he realized that he didn't really miss it that much and was okay being a skinny guy who was once big and muscular. So he would go to the gym and sit in the parking lot playing on his phone for a bit, go inside and do a few laps in the pool and go home. She found out and said that since he had lied to her about going to the gym, that he couldn't be trusted and divorced him. Story 42. I was friends with two girls in college who both ended up dating a couple of guys around the same time. These two ladies were from the same small town in Missouri, were practically joined at hip, and even looked really similar, thin blonde to green eyes. The guys had never previously met each other, and both relationships started organically. This was in 05, when meeting potential partners at coffee shops or the gym was a thing. Anyway, story goes that the four of them went on a double date. They all end up back one of the girls' apartments and got completely smashed. The girls ended up falling asleep in the bed together, remember, best friends, and the dudes crashed on the pull-out couch. When the girls woke up in the morning, they walked into the living room only to find their new boyfriends engaged in some bedroom activities. If that wasn't crazy enough, it turns out both guys were in the closet, big surprise there, and were only dating these girls to take as dates for a wedding that they were both invited to. One was a second cousin of the bride. The other was the groom's best friend's younger brother. The four of them figured this all out during what I imagine to be one of the most awkward breakfasts in history and ended up sharing a pretty good laugh about it. I forgot to mention that these two ladies are incredibly awesome people, and while the romantic relationships between all of them ended, the girls agreed to be dates at the wedding, and all four of them had a blast and confirm. I was at the wedding 20 years later, and they're all still friends. The girls are married with kids, and the guys have long since come out of the closet and are either married or in long-term relationship with their partner. Life is crazier than fiction. Story 43. We didn't break up, but my ex-boyfriend would keep complaining about how small my chest was. Our B cups literally kills our expectations from our partner's body, and he had a girl break up with me for not being able to start or keep a fire going. We had been dating for a year at that point, and I thought I'd surprise her by trying out camping together. Pretty good at starting or keeping a bonfire going nowadays. Since then I learned how to forge. Every time I do, I think about how at that point I didn't have a chance because they had been so wet from the rain. Pretty much sums up that relationship. And for the longest time, I thought she was the one that got away. Story 44. One time, I broke up with a guy because we went to the gym together for the first time, and he loaded up a bunch of weight and started quarter squatting. Story 45. A couple who were family friends. The man worked offshore on oil rigs for long periods of time, while his wife was a stay-at-home mother. They had been married for 20 years until the husband got seriously injured at work and took early retirement. Less than a year later, the wife divorced him because she couldn't stand spending so much time with him. While he was away for weeks at a time, she basically lived a carefree life and had become accustomed to doing her own thing. Once he was now home, 247, he apparently was getting in the way of her lifestyle. During the divorce process, the husband would constantly send her lawyers letters about trivial things. Think of things like he wants that special lamp type thing, just so it would cost her money for her lawyers to read the letter and reply. Story 46. The circumstances surrounding it are what makes it crazy. My wife is bi. We've been together since high school, so before we got married, we opened our relationship to give her a chance to experience the full spectrum of her desires. My older sister found out and told the entire family how messed up we were, how disgusting she found the entire situation to be, how we can't have any respect for each other if this is the way we choose to live. For about a year, my wife and I had great experiences that were safe, built on trust and love, and really healthy. A few years later, my older sister got divorced because she was banging her neighbor, a co-worker, and a former high school boyfriend. So if you have your partner's blessing, it's disgusting and disrespectful, but if you sneak around, it's all good. Edit the troll blocked me as soon as they posted, so I'm adding this edit to say, I think it's hilarious Reddit changes the avatar of people who block you to the snoo, turning its back on you. Story 47. My ex-boyfriend broke up with me because he read in the Bible that men aren't supposed to have with men. Since we were a gay couple, he decided to end it right then. Story 48. Because of a cupcake. The man playfully smushed one in her wife's face at her birthday party, thought it was all in good fun. She was embarrassed and later confronted him, but he brushed it off, saying she was being too sensitive. Classic mistake. If a woman says it's not funny, just apologize and move on. You're not winning this one. But that little argument turned into a week of silent treatment, then weeks of fighting over bigger issues about respect, boundaries, never taking her seriously. A year later, they were in court, and somewhere in the paperwork, it all traced back to that one cupcake. Story 49. Broke up with me because he thought I was cheating after 2 years and a kid. I think he was doing something TBH, Because I never cheated, and he ended up with the girl. He told me not to worry about my friend divorce his wife so that they wouldn't have to pay the hospital delivery fees for their baby. They live in a state where single moms don't have to pay for child delivery maternal services. Story 50. On the day after the wedding, the newlywed wife drove to her very rich parents-in-law's house and demanded that they signed over everything they owned. And I mean everything, their assets, every cent in their bank accounts, even the very house they were living in. The husband divorced her within the week. She got absolutely nothing and was publicly shamed by the ex-husband's family and relatives for years afterwards. ETA, she had foolishly thought that the moment the marriage was legal, that she had the right to own everything her husband would eventually receive from his parents. Story 51. My friend quit her job and decided she wanted to be an artist and made no money at it. Her husband worked at the same place she did. When she left, it caused so much drama, and they were bad-mouthing her so bad that he had to quit. He started doing freelance work, which didn't pay as much, but it was something. They lost the house and car because they couldn't afford it if she wasn't working. She blamed him and left him because he wasn't being a good provider. He ended up getting a job in his field, and 18 years later, she still isn't making any money doing her art. Story 52. Friend needed an organ transplant. Her dad donated a kidney to save his daughter. Mom filed for divorce because she didn't like that the dad was now closer to his daughter than her. Story 53. Gosh, I went through a divorce that was super sad. My ex-wife is amazing. Definitely some significant, major life-impacting problems with anxiety. When she's surprised or scared, it can get dicey. And that really only happens while she's driving. It's terrible road rage, but not her fault. I have severe PTSD that's left me with most of the symptoms of schizophrenia and panic disorder. We got married as I was told I needed to be on disability. We had an unbelievably great marriage. Two perfect friends completely committed to each other's happiness and well-being. We never argued because we were so committed to the other. There were quirks, but no real challenges outside of mental illness. Obviously, I was being treated extensively, but her anxiety included doctors, so she got an SSRI and was fine. The occasional road rage was really intense and scared the pants off me every time. Very quickly, my paranoia was thinking, is she going to kill me? I fought it as hard as I could. But by the end of 4 years, it was consuming me. I wasn't safe to be alone. I couldn't be around her, and I had to leave. Still, just a huge shame. No one's fault. Story 54. A guy divorced his wife because she ate his fries off his plate after he explicitly told her not to. Not cheating, not money issues, just stolen fries. Story 55. Around the time my best friend met his wife, we had our first and only fight unrelated to the wife. I just told him that I felt like he talked down to me sometimes, and he reacted in a shitty way. After that, he never contacted me for over a year, which I knew was partly because his new GF was jealous, and I also knew we were both extremely busy at the time. After a year or so, I wrote him a message asking if he'd care to talk it out at some point. Once again, I got no reply. Fast forward about 3 months, and he calls me, telling me his now wife found a message he had left unread because he knew she'd freak out. She then proceeded to have meltdown while driving a car with him and their new baby in it and drove it over 100 miles per hour in a pedestrian street, almost hitting several people. The next night, she took their daughter and left him without leaving a note or anything. A couple of weeks later is when he contacted me. They're now in a really ugly custody battle. By the way, I never felt attracted to him at all, and we've been best friends for over 16 years. Story 56. Coworker divorced her husband around the 1-year anniversary. Said she didn't want to be married, just wanted a wedding. She wanted to be center of attention for the planning, dress, shopping, shower, wedding, honeymoon, etc. Story 57. Breakup. My then best friend break up with her boyfriend because they couldn't figure out in which house they want to live. They both owned houses. Story 58. Paganism. I won't be too specific here. I know someone who dealt with a woman who had a real intense case of BPD, and she's done many crazy things that put both his life and freedom in very serious jeopardy. And he stayed with her through and through. This guy, however, was a God-fearing Christian. She put up Halloween decorations, and he felt it was paganism and divorced her. Story 59. I had 2 friends who dated and were both vegan. One of them broke up with the other because he was vegan for the wrong reasons. He was vegan for the environmental reasons, and apparently he should have been vegan for animal welfare. Story 60. When my wife was diagnosed with cancer a few years ago, in addition to the seemingly hundreds of appointments set up for her, she was also immediately scheduled to meet with a social worker. The social worker basically told her that women who go through cancer have a very high divorce rate. It's so disturbing that the problem is that significant that it automatically warrants a meeting with a social worker upon diagnosis. Story 61. My moment to shine. Divorced because the wife was born on a Friday and her family hid that from him. It is a local tribal superstition in North Africa. Women born on Friday tend to suffer from vaginismus. Friday is a Muslim's holy day and is usually associated with impurity. Story 62, haven't read it yet. So here's a former famous football soccer for you Americans player who had to go through a divorce because his wife thought there was something missing. He's just a perfect nice. The famous football player in question is Ricardo Isaacson dos Santos Leite, aka CAC. Brazilian. This baffled me too much that I thought this had to be fake, but it's true. Story 63, not sure what it was, but a girl stormed out of my neighbor's rental house and screamed you at the top of her lungs, and then got in her car, slammed the door, and took off at full speed down a 3-mile dirt road. Maybe 2 minutes later, her boyfriend stormed out and slammed both the front door and his truck door, and then fired up his truck and floored it all 3 miles down a stop sign, which he then blew through chasing her. I still wish I knew what the cause of all that was. I keep waiting for gay marriage to destabilize a straight marriage into divorce. Story 64, not crazy in that you can't believe they get divorced for this, but crazy in that you can't believe it happened. Wife caught husband having with wife's mother on husband and wife's wedding night. I know a family court judge who has many such stories. Story 65, this guy ran a sandwich shop in town, and his wife came home early one day and found him eating some footlongs by the pool, but they were not sandwiches. Story 66, the reason I broke up with her was because she cheated on me, but the reason she gave for cheating was that I was too good at Trivial Pursuit and that I didn't her. I am really good at Trivial Pursuit, and she never ever once asked me to her. Story 67, I just saw another post here on Reddit about a woman thinking about divorcing her husband because he thinks it makes him an alpha to not wipe his after he shits. Story 68, for context, I live on a small island with an East versus West rivalry, usually lighthearted. However, I worked with someone who had divorced because they couldn't agree whether to live east or west with their partner. Bearing in mind the island is only 9 by 5 miles west is best though. Story 69, I recall seeing an episode of one of those TV series, probably Divorce Court or something, where the guy asked his wife to dress up like a chicken and cluck around the room during sexy time. Story 70, I have seen 3 different divorces caused by men getting radicalized online. They come to believe that females should be subservient house slaves with no sense of self and zero autonomy. Mind you, none of these guys could have supported their families if their wives stopped working. It is a total delusional fantasy. But they get stuck in it and end up berating their wives, trying to break them down mentally and emotionally. It's complete insanity. Those are just the ones who got so deeply mired that they wound up divorced over it. 3 times in just my small experience of people I personally know, that extrapolates into an absolute epidemic. People have a lot of theories, but I truly believe that the misogyny cults are the real explanation for Trump. Story 71, my aunt's ex-husband left her because she asked him politely to stop punching her when he was mad. He filed for divorce a week later. She was absolutely fine with that. Story 72, I was with my friend right before her wedding ceremony, and she asked me if we would all hate her if she backed out at the last minute. I said no. She got this determined look on her face and just walked straight out. Her dad pulled the car around and she hopped in and left. It was strange seeing her in her wedding dress, just nope out of there. Story 73, I had a guy break up with me because I was too horny all the time. No, I wasn't hounding this guy for all the time. I just hadn't turned him down when he wanted. He said it was normal for him as a man to want frequently, but it was abnormal for me not to be turning him down. Story 74, GF broke up with me because I was too good of a guy and treat her too. Well, she said she was jealous of my exes because I probably did all the same things for them that I did for her. So it wasn't special. She told me she wanted to end it before she fell in love with me and eventually break her heart. All this stemmed from me sending her flowers to her work. Not sure if she was cheating, wasn't into me anymore, or if she just had relationship issues. Story 75, I have an ex who dumped me because she found it odd that I didn't force myself on her when she said she wasn't in the mood. It's been 25 years, and I still can't work it out. Story 76, my buddy's wife was a liberal granola hippie, which led her to the original anti-vax movement Jenny McCarthy era. Being so strident in the anti-vax movement got her caught up in some weird magic water MLMs. Those MLMs were run by cookie stay-at-home moms in the Midwest, which got her exposed to Trump MAGA propaganda. Then she became a full-on QAnon conspiracy theorist, posting all sorts of insanely outlandish stuff on Facebook, including second-wave COVID anti-vax stuff. Anyway, they're not married anymore. Story 77, having with hookers. I could handle the abuse. Yes, I said that. Not hookers. I was young and scared. I thought I would die of an STD and not know why. We had a 2-year-old daughter. Best decision ever. He turned into a pedo and got one of his daughters pregnant. He's in jail. Story 78, my girlfriend kept complaining that after work I come home early. I don't clean her dishes that she leaves in the sink. I always clean after myself. But this constant demanding to clean her dishes broke me. I had enough, and one day, when I came after work, I picked up all of my things and left. Story 79. I once broke up with a girl in large part to how she'd react to funny jokes. For those who are curious, she'd laugh, repeat the punchline, and then continue laughing every time.